Thank you. Hello, everybody. Thank you for coming out. This is my local neighborhood bookstore, so I hope you are enjoying celebrating Bookstore Romance Day at the Scholar today. Lily, congratulations on your book.
Thank you. Oh, thank you. Thank you so much. And thank you all for coming. I'm so glad to see you. Can't wait to meet you after. This is fun. I love this book so much, and I'm excited to talk about it.
Yeah, me too. I literally read it in one sitting, so I'm not doing much reading these days. My brain has been fried by TikTok, so that's a compliment. Also, behind the scenes in the green room, Lily picked my brain for the past 30 minutes, so I can't wait to return the favor and pick your brain a little bit up here. But yeah, the first thing I want to ask you tonight, obviously your book, we just heard, is subtitled A Feminist Guide to Breaking Dumb Dating Rules and Finding Love. For you, why is that your inroad to deconstructing the dating world, to improving your love life? Why is feminism the route that you go down?
So in the book, I use the definition of feminism, equality for everyone, regardless of their gender or sex or regardless of anything. And so when I think about how I was taught to date and where I was raised in Birmingham, Alabama, taught that a woman's worth was so deeply tied to her relationship status with a cisgender man, and that I was behind if I was single, and that I was too much if people didn't want to date me. I was raised to shrink in order to belong, especially in a dating context. And so when I became an adult and I was dating and a late bloomer, I felt eternally behind. And I was a feminist. I was like working in these feminist nonprofits for the well-being of women and girls around the world. But in my love life, I was shrinking because of how I was taught to date. And so this like cognitive dissonance was very real. And then when I became a matchmaker, which we can get into, I learned that dating was this microcosm of our well-being, that it actually mattered to how we do life. And so feminist dating became this like rallying cry for me. Like, how can I take up more space in my love life, ask for what I want, and attract an equal partner as a result, instead of a partner who, in the words of a lot of marriage ceremonies that I experienced, like I saw a woman vowing to be subservient to her husband in every single marriage ceremony that I went to growing up in the South. And I knew that that's the opposite of what I wanted. So feminist dating is about attracting an equal partner and feeling amazing about yourself along the way.
Fabulous. And you know, how you do anything is how you do everything, right? So I mean, going through reading this book, I'm picking up on things where I'm like, oh, that's applicable to my professional life. That's applicable to my family relationships, to my self-worth. Like the framework you lay out, which we will also get into, and the mindset that you adopt in this kind of search for personal fulfillment and love, it kind of feels universal, so it makes sense that that feminism angle is what brought you to it. But yeah, you touched on your personal matchmaking experience. How did that lead you to where you are now, where you are kind of influencing through this nebulous world of social media, how people approach their own dating lives?
So I just want to get a gauge of everyone in there. Are you all single? Are you dating? Raise your yes. You don't have to self-disclose if you don't want to raise your hand. Yes. Okay, cool. So glad to know you a little bit. Okay. Oh
my gosh.
Thank you. I can't wait to discuss later. So I needed a job about 8-9 years ago. I lived in New York. I didn't have 2 pennies to rub together. I had 4 side hustles. I was making balloon hats at Senor Frogs in Times Square. Can I say?
That's my favorite anecdote.
Can I say dirty things in the bookstore?
Of course,
there are people here who did not consent to being here up there. But
they seem kind of tuned out.
I can make a penis balloon hat like coming into a pair of lips. As a hat. I have a picture to prove it. Now it's abstract. It's not like a one-to-one. But so I was a balloon hat maker at Senor Frogs in Times Square. I was a nanny. I was a receptionist. And my friend knew I needed more money to live in New York. And she was like, I found this matchmaking company. Like, LOL, wouldn't it be so funny if you applied? I was like, LOL, that would be so funny. I have no dating experience. I am a late bloomer. I haven't had sex. I'm in my mid-20s. I guess I'll be a matchmaker. And I learned very quickly that I was thrown into the deep end of being a matchmaker. And I learned very quickly, like I said, that like, oh, dating is interesting. Like, oh, dating is this thing where if I can help people be well in their dating lives, specifically women, I can help them be well. If I can help them feel powerful in their dating lives, I can help them be powerful in their lives. And so dating became this really cool, like, heart project for me after that. And I was a matchmaker for 2 years. I became the third most successful out of 160 at that national firm. And I also was in a terrible toxic relationship at the same time. So while I was telling my clients, you deserve more, I was accepting the crumbs from somebody who couldn't meet any of my emotional needs. And so when I was done with that cognitive dissonance, when I was like literally so stressed out, I was feeling physically sick, my therapist helped me break it off with that person. But then I looked around, I was like, now what? Because matchmaking was this first date thing, and I knew I could get a first date. I'm sure any of you could go pull a first date today. But I was like, how am I never going to settle again? I'm afraid I'm going to settle again because he was everything I said I wanted on paper. So I started to do this work for myself that I taught in the book, which was like, okay, what are my essence-based preferences? How can I learn self-compassion to be kinder to myself? Because my friends and family want me to swipe more. My therapist doesn't know what to tell me for dating except download another app. And I don't want to turn to a matchmaker for a first date. I want to figure this shit out. So then I started coaching myself and leaned on tools that other people who knew more than me had taught me, like self-compassion. And then I felt joyful in my dating life. I was flirting. I was asking people out. And the bonus was that I met my husband, Chris, in person. And he's somebody who I might not have met had I not done my essence-based preferences, because I was so in my head and I was like so rigid. And then I started coaching my matchmaking clients, and they started to find better dates for themselves than I or anybody else could find for them. And then 7 years ago, I broke up with matchmaking to start Date Brazen.
Matchmakers hate her. She's disrupting the industry.
I know this is being streamed on YouTube, so I won't name names, but I am very careful not to. You could Google and like find what matchmaking firm I worked for, but I don't really, I think matchmaking works for some, but it's a first date. You know what I'm saying? And I wanted something that helped people, specifically women, feel so powerful.
And obviously, because there was such a demand for matchmaking services, people are yearning for love and relationships and connection. And it seems it's kind of funny once you dig into the meat of what these women are experiencing specifically, and some of the things we're feeling and internalizing about ourselves. It's eerie how similar all of these stories become. So you kind of, I think, did tap into, I don't know, almost like a secret code into hacking dating life and building it into something that's joyful. And specifically, as I was reading the book, so many things were resonating with me personally. Like, you talk a lot about being told that you're too much, but also on the flip side of that, you'll be told you're not enough, or you'll be made to feel like you're not enough for somebody that you're dating. Just awful statements to ever believe about yourself. But after hearing it and kind of thinking about yourself time and time again, you do start to internalize it. And experiences that you live through in your crappy dating life might begin to reinforce those beliefs. So where did you start? Like, how do you start to tackle those beliefs head on and help people joyfully build a dating life for themselves?
The thought I'm too much feels like a prison in my own brain sometimes. Like it makes me judge myself in all friendships, all romantic relationships when I was dating. And I was taught this, I love my mom. We're close now. We talk about it's obviously in my book. But at age 12, she told me, you're too much. You're going to have a hard time finding a husband. And I was like, Mom, why are you telling me this at age 12? Am I that broken? Am I that too much that you think? And then I also found it to feel like a life sentence of loneliness. And so I think addressing that belief that I was too much led me to settle in the worst romantic relationship of my life, where none of my needs got to be met. And then the thought, I'm not enough to keep him wanting to be with me, was also in my brain, because I thought that a romantic relationship meant that I was worthy of one. And I think that the work starts at uncoupling the idea that a romantic relationship means anything about whether or not you're worthy of one, right? Like, I had the thought, I need to prove that that a relationship is possible, so let me get in one. but I think it can just be sort of uncoupled. Like, I am a human being, I am whole, and I want a relationship. And I'm not more whole or more valuable or less to or anything if I catch a man. You know what I'm saying? And so uncoupling that, like, maybe a romantic relationship is just something that happens. Maybe it doesn't mean anything about my worth as a human being. I think that's where I started. And then honestly, I saw a Subway ad that said, if you think I'm too much, then maybe you're not enough for me. And I took a picture of it. I still have it from like 6, 7 years, 8 years ago. And I think that sentence, a sentence can sometimes, I don't know if y'all feel this way, but it can sometimes like launch me into a new state of being, because our thoughts create our reality. So that thought just really implanted, like, oh, what if that were true? That, like, if you thought that I was too much, then you're not enough for me, or you're not right for me. What if I got to be the arbiter of my own relationships? And, like, what if I got to be the CEO of this shit? Like, that really, the inkling of what if it were true helped me get to, oh yeah, it's definitely true. So I think baby step thoughts really helped me, which is what I talk about in the book a lot, of like how actually to build a better, more abundant dating mindset is not about toxic positivity. It's not about like, shut up brain, think something different, which I think a lot of people talk about. That I think that's why mantras and like positive affirmations can be powerful, but they were toxic for me sometimes because I didn't believe them. And so it just felt like this untrue thought. So a baby step thought really helped me build a new mindset and a powerful new state of being where I was like, oh yeah, if you think I'm too much, then you're not enough for me, bye.
Yeah, I wrote that down in my questions for tonight. It just says toxic positivity versus main character energy. And that's kind of what you talk about creating for yourself as you are pursuing this joyful dating life. So I love that. You mentioned like these phrases or sentences that kind of just like worm their way into your consciousness. For me, a couple years ago, it was something you said, and then I also heard it rephrased slightly in a Jane Austen movie, and it's stuck with me ever since. It's your phrase that you use a couple times, what is meant for you will not pass you by. And that's a phrase that like got me through, I mean, a couple different hard times in my life, specifically romance related and not romance related at all. But yeah, these are things that apply, like I said, to other areas of your life, not just dating. And it is really refreshing how there's substance behind these ideas because you back them up with like almost like methodology and very therapeutic like self-awareness work. I told Lily backstage, like just talking to her, I was like, have you ever considered being a therapist? Because you can get at the root of what people are thinking about so quickly. The book is great. Like even if you are coupled, read the book. It's fantastic.
You need to set your single friends up better.
Yeah.
That's why a couple people need it.
I don't know if I have a question related to that. I just like wanted to tell you all of those things.
Thank you.
But like we're sitting here, it's Bookstore Romance Day, and that's a day to celebrate love and like romance and pursuing those things joyfully as women is something that's often stigmatized. You know, there's this big stigma against enjoying romance books, against as much as we're told to catch a man, it's also seen as sort of try hard sometimes to pursue that and to be too intentional about it. To the point where a lot of women, I think, have fallen out of love with the process of dating and pursuing romantic love. There's like a lot of baggage attached to it now. So is that something that you were also conscious of as you're kind of developing this methodology?
It's such a minefield, this concept of dating romantic love, because you know, the prevailing TikTokery that is like dating is trash. Have y'all been in that swipe cycle? Dating trash, men are trash, women are trash, everything is trash vibes. It on one hand, I can coach you through that, right? I don't know that mindset serves you both, and yeah, it is hard. And it is a lot of people who are doing things that are like shady and weird. A lot of people who are unintentional. The way that we were taught to date is rooted in a lot of times like internalized misogyny and patriarchy, that we were taught to play small, to shrink our wants and needs, that if we're asking for something that we're too much and that the other person is not at fault for like being out of alignment, well, we're at fault for, like, I just think that there's a lot of emotional labor that women and people socialized as women are saddled with in the dating world, that they were taught to perform with, right? I was taught to people please in order, I know I'm not alone, in order to belong and be safe in social situations and in relationships. So what did I do? I took people pleasing into my dating life. What does that do? It sets me up to being available for so many of the wrong people. And that is exhausting. And so I think it's a microcosm of everything. It's patriarchal socialization. It's, the hotbed of racist and homophobic and transphobic behavior that we see online and on dating apps. Like, yeah, it's hard. And I don't hear enough people, there are people talking about it, but I think that this conversation about why dating is specifically a hotbed of harm is not being critically spoken about when we talk about dating enough, right? It's either, what I've heard, is either just get on the apps and put up with it. That's what it is. That's what dating is. Or don't date and you're not trying hard enough, right? Does that resonate with y'all? So I think that this book and my work comes in with the both and approach, right? Historical context of why dating is hard, like context about like why you feel that dating is trash, both and strategies to reclaim your agency, to want what you want, to start feeling better about yourself, and then also strategies to like attract people who are into you, who think that you are their best case scenario as well.
Yeah, definitely, and that's so powerful because you talk about the systems that are in place to help you find a man or whatever, and they are trash. You talk about dating apps.
Well, and these systems were also why I didn't realize I was bi until I was in my mid-20s. Like, I think that this conversation about dating can be so toxic, so like one thing, that I hope that this book feels like a massive permission slip to like want what you. One of my favorite like testimonials from one of my clients was like, I realized I was gay from doing my essence-based preferences because I grew up in the South and I grew up in a church that told me that that was wrong. And so like, let me do my essence-based preferences and meet the love of my life because I'm centering what I want and letting my needs move the train, opposed to what I was taught to do to be safe in the world.
Yeah, and that you keep mentioning essence-based preferences. That's kind of one of the activities or the practices you recommend to, turn dating into like really therapy, honestly, like, and this act of self-care that you describe. It's a combination of visualization, journaling, manifestation. Like, you have tapped into some practices that are so beneficial just like to being a person, and applying them to dating is, I think, radical, honestly. So what's your favorite, if it's essence-based preferences, let's talk about it, but like, what's your favorite tool that you recommend people to do?
Do any of y'all know what essence-based preferences are? Some do, some don't. Cool. Let me just explain that, and then I'll talk about my favorite tool in the book. So essence-based preferences are a way to think about and verbalize what you want in a way that's so much deeper than surface level. So usually in response to dating, most people overfunction, meaning really rigid checklist, must have gone to this kind of school, must have this level of degree, must be this exact height, must be this exact location, in order to keep themselves safe, right? In order to sort of protect themselves against being with the wrong person. But that rigidity, more often than not, like excludes being surprised by the right people for you. So it sort of cuts you off from opportunity. Then on the other end, we have underfunctioning, which is also a very normal response, taking your hands off the wheel. What dating life? It'll happen when I least expect it.
Somebody nice with a job.
Right, somebody nice with a job. And it's actively not wanting what you want for fear that it doesn't exist. And so coming in the middle with essence-based preferences is like, okay, let's start with kind, funny, smart. Most people that I speak to will start with like, I want somebody kind, funny, smart. I ask so many more questions to help them get to their love life vocabulary. Like, what if kind was so much more specific to you and what you wanted? What if it was compassionately curious and you had your own definition of what that looks like, feels like in practice? Where do you experience that in your life? And then suddenly you have this robust like set of phrases or words like compassionately curious, joyfully nerdy. There are more examples in the book. Resilient as hell, and you have your own definitions. And then when a friend asks you, what are you looking for? You will be able to succinctly share exactly how you want to feel in the right relationship, which helps them support you better, which helps them stop saying things like, are you being too picky? Because you suddenly know how you want to feel in the right relationship. And when you use that as your metric, you're never going to settle again. And you're also going to know that the right relationship is in front of you when it is. So those are essence-based preferences, and I take you through them in chapter 5 of the book, and they're very good and powerful, and I love them. And I use them for my career. I use them for my relationship now. I adapt them for my life. Encourage you to do the same. Bragging is my favorite tool in the book.
I love it.
Chapter 4, 3, something.
It's early in the book, which I love.
When I say bragging, can you shout out what words come to mind? No judgment. Accomplishments? Yeah? Your face said gross.
Scary.
Boasting. Yeah. Talking about yourself, yes. Anybody else? Bragging? Negative or positive connotation? Negative, yes. Okay, that's what I was going for. I was taught that too, right? And I'm not talking about... Go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, if you're told you're too much, like, you're not going to brag about
brag?
yourself.
Yeah, especially if you're told you're intimidating. Like, tone it down. Like, just don't tell them that you own that home on the first date. Like, don't intimidate. Okay, so I'm not talking about bro bragging, which is sucking the air out of the room. Here's how much I got on my stock portfolio, returns I got on my stock portfolio last year. Now, we love a stock portfolio return. However, when it's done in this, like, I'm better than you, I have more than you way, that's bro bragging. That's like conventional bro bragging. What I'm talking about in this book that's going to change your love life, it's going to change your life in general, it's going to deepen your friendships, it's going to help you take up more space, is brazen bragging. So this means adding breadth to a conversation or connection by sharing what you're proud of and asking the person across from you, what are you proud of too? So in this way, you're inviting people across from you to take up space with you. And if the space ever gets bigger, it's not like there's only a limited amount of space in the room. And when you're talking about, it's not bro bragging, it's brazen bragging. And so if you use this tool of what am I proud of? What have I accomplished? Maybe, yes. What am I proud of about my essence, about who I am, about how I show up in the world, about what I've created, right? And when you know those things, you are suddenly coming to the table of a date with so much more information about what you bring to the table instead of focusing on, do they like me, do they like me, do they like me? You're going to come to the date feeling like a little bit full of yourself in a great way. And then you can also ask the person across from you, it's a kind of a date hack, what are you proud of? And then allow them to share, and then hopefully they ask you back. If they don't, it's a blessed release. But if they ask you back, then you can share, and their response will tell you everything you need to know. It's the ultimate qualifier disqualifier.
Yeah, I love it. And yeah, like you said, it makes everybody feel good. If they're the right person to be in that moment of you bragging, it's just gonna make everyone feel joyful. You just mentioned bless and release, and that's something that took me a long time to be comfortable with. Bless and release, basically giving someone permission to see themselves to the door. So many women, I think, and people in general, just get very uncomfortable kind of saying no to any opportunities, but particularly in their dating life, for the fear that something is going to pass them by, that they missed the one. What would you say to that, to somebody who's very uncomfortable blessing and releasing?
I think the concept of the one is very stressful and limits to me. This is my side of the street. I don't believe in the one. I believe there are a lot of people in this world that could be amazing for you, who could be the most incredible partner. I do think that blessing and releasing is the skill. It's the skill that when you hone it, and not just blessing and releasing, but blessing and releasing without mind drama, not so much self-doubt, not so much self-judgment, that's what leads to your freedom and you propelling yourself forward faster. Because what I see in terms of people getting stuck in the mire and muck of dating is that probably they've got a bless and release to do that they're not doing because they're afraid of what it means if they bless and release, like an ex that you're obsessing about in your head that you have trouble letting go, right? Or a cutie that you've been seeing who's so nice and they're so into you, but you're not feeling it at all. Holding on to them for dear life for fear that what you want doesn't exist actually slows you down from finding that which is right for you. And it might sound cliche, however, I do think that this is about like, this is our one precious life. Life is short, right? I don't know if any of you have, all of us have been through things in our lives. I've had circumstances in the past couple of weeks where I'm like, wow, life is really short. What am I going to do about it? What am I going to do with this one life of mine? And bless and release is a skill set that is ultimately about your freedom and about you being the one who gets to choose who you want to be with. And the sooner you bless and release the wrong people and the more permission you give yourself to know what you want, the faster you will meet the people who are right for you. I've seen it time and time again.
And yeah, there's a lot of agency with that, and it brings us back to that main character energy too, where, you know, we're not just saying empty words or empty phrases to make ourselves feel good, but we're really embodying some of those mindset shifts.
Can I share what main character energy is?
Yes, of course.
Okay, it's 3 things, okay? And I talk about it in the chapter about in-person dating, which is definitely a thing, and you're going to learn how to do it with this book, and it's going to be so fun, I promise. 3 things, main character energy. Number 1, permission. Giving yourself permission to want what you want. Let's use the example of skipping. So when you are walking down the street and suddenly somebody's in your ear singing and you just feel so joyful, like, I don't know why I'm into Tasha Bedingfield, it's like coming up, but like you're listening to like, the rest is still unwritten, and then you're like, I want to skip. Give yourself permission to skip. That's the first step of main character energy. Then you're going to have thoughts like, oh my God, what are people going to think about me? Oh my God, am I going to look weird? Am I going to la la la? Self-trust. Permission, self-trust. Trusting that like, no matter what happens, I'm going to be okay. I have my own back. I'm safe to do this because I trust myself. Things might feel a little odd sometimes, but I can trust that I'm going to be okay. Self-trust. Number 3, massive, messy action. Then you skip. Messy action. That's why every chapter ends with messy homework, because doing it imperfectly is the key to doing these things and getting results. So then you skip and you experience joy in your body because you're moving your body in this way that you're giving yourself permission to do what you wanted to do instead of gating what you want by saying, oh, it's weird, I shouldn't do that, I shouldn't, oh, this or that. Just a small example, but when you master that main character energy of like permission, self-trust, messy action, again and again and again, it's a recipe to getting so much more joyful experiences from your dating life and beyond.
I love it. And yeah, with that in mind, kind of brings me back to the title of your book, Thank You More Please. What's that all about? What's at the root of saying, thank you, more please?
I felt at one point a couple of years ago, like I wanted some things in my life and they weren't happening as quick as I wanted them to. And I knew that gratitude was the answer. I knew that Oprah had told me that gratitude was the answer. But then gratitude felt like, I felt kind of like Oliver Twist with the little bowl and like, please, can I have some more? And then I just really just sat down and was like, okay, what if I just got to audaciously express gratitude and say more please joyfully instead of this begging energy? I was like, thank you. What if it was thank you, more please? And this isn't revolutionary. This isn't something that only I have thought of. I, subsequently have learned of a lot of people who've been saying this thank you, more please, just because it makes sense. Thank you, more please. And then the more I said thank you, more please to moments in my day or moments in my life where I got what I wanted in small, tiny ways, the more I saw evidence appear. And it's Baader-Meinhof phenomenon, which is red car theory, which is the more I pay attention to something, the more it amplifies in my awareness. So it's not that what you want doesn't exist in your love life, it's that you haven't been gathering the right data yet. And all you have to do is do a thank you, more please challenge to go out in the world and look for tiny slivers of evidence that what you want exists. And suddenly that evidence will start to pile up and you'll start to see more of it to build authentic hope instead of toxic positivity in your dating life.
Yeah, and it's actually backed by science. It like activates some center in your brain, which is crazy to me, but it's that's why like manifesting is actually also the same thing, tapping into that center in your brain where you're picking up on things that already exist and you're allowing yourself to, consume them and take them in, and it's very validating. So I love it. I think I have time for one more question, which I asked you before and you didn't answer. This is your number one discussion starter when you're like dating or spending time with friends. Lily, what is bringing you joy lately?
This is bringing me so much joy. Truly, like, it's so fun to see your face and say hello. Like, it's so fun to be here. I also took this, the shower at the hotel I'm staying at was great. It was so great. It was white tile and it was very pretty. And I was like, thank you, more please. I want this for I don't have a New York apartment that's very fancy yet, but I would like yes to this subway tile. I'm very turned on by interior design and that sort of thing. So that brought me a lot of joy to be around beauty and to feel cared for. So
amazing.
Yeah.
Well, with
what about you?
Oh gosh. Okay. Well, I think for me, like you said, being here, just being able to do this, because you might wonder where's the overlap in a TikTok royal commentator and a dating coach. But Lily's content and just herself as a person, it literally leapt through my phone screen at me a couple years ago. And since then we've commented back and forth, we've DM'd back and forth, but just being able to somehow end up on the same stage with you, and we both have these platforms where I think we're very conscious of women being able to seize like little methods to create joy and to create agency. So it's just like very validating for me to be up here. And that's like a never-ending journey. So I know that probably resonates with you too. But
thank you more, please.
Yeah,
love it.
Thank you more, please. But yeah, with that, I think we'll open it up. If anybody has questions, Kiana in the back will bring around the mic.
Yeah, go ahead, folks. Just raise your hand if you have any questions, and I will come around and give you the mic.
Don't be shy.
Hi, I'm Gabby. So I have consumed a lot of your podcasts and different forms of media, and I really take to the concept of owning your past dating life. So stepping in, if you go on a date, oh, you've never had a boyfriend before. I mean, you can. That's a subjective definition, and having that conversation with somebody, owning that conversation and not being embarrassed by that. And I'm wondering if do you recommend practicing that with a friend, or kind of just so when you are in that conversation on a date, you're not stumbling over your words?
Yeah, absolutely. I think this is a great question. So I think that most people, whether they've been in no relationships romantically or 15, or they just got divorced or whatever, have some fear about disclosing something to a new partner or a new date. So I want to just normalize. This is really normal. And most people think that they're the only one who feels embarrassed about this, right? Most people think, oh my God, I'm going to disclose that I'm a single mom and they're going to have thoughts about that. I don't know, or I'm going to disclose that I have felt like a late bloomer and I've never been in a relationship, and they're going to, right? The fear is what's important to acknowledge, right? Instead of letting it swim in your brain, say okay, for me, it was the fear of sharing that I haven't been in many romantic relationships before, maybe that I haven't been intimate with anybody before because of a lot of reasons. But that's what I was fearing, and what I would recommend is acknowledge the fear, practice self-compassion. It's normal to feel this way, right? Because what happens is that people spin out on it so hard that then that fear becomes paralyzing. So to neutralize the fear and move through it, self-compassion is a really active way to reclaim your agency. It's very simple to do. 3 things. The kindest, most real, of course I have this fear. Community over isolation. So I'm not alone. I'm not the only one who feels this way. And then thoughts, not facts. Woo, I'm having a lot of thoughts about what it means that I'm going to share this, and I'm having the thought that they're going to reject me. That's a thought, not a fact. And those 3 pillars are adapted from Dr. Kristen Neff's work on self-compassion. So number 1, acknowledge the fear. Number 2, self-compassion. And number 3, practice out loud. Yeah. So role play. This is why I role play with my clients about whatever they're afraid to tell a new date. Hey, how many relationships have you been in, or what's your history? Oh, actually, I haven't had any. And then we practice we really practice the worst case scenario first, because the worst case scenario probably will never happen. In your brain, the worst case scenario is they're going to be like, well, what is that? What do you mean? Why would you never be in a relationship before? And then you practice like saying, okay, well, it just hasn't happened. And then you get it over with. And then you practice the scenario that probably will happen, which is, oh, tell me more about that. You know? So I think acknowledge the fear, self-compassion, practice.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Hello. As a single mom, I have 2 kids. The 2 daughters actually, so can this book be given to them as well, because they are teenagers? So
How
they're
old are
in
they?
14 and 18.
I would give it to the 18-year-old.
The
I would not
18-year-old.
give it to the 14-year-old.
Well, I wasn't thinking the 14-year-old, but definitely my 18-year-old.
And if she's out of the house, maybe, I don't know, like,
She's
I'm not,
starting college this fall,
Oh,
in
this is-
less than a week.
oh, how are you feeling? Are you okay?
No,
No,
no, not at all.
that's so intense. Yeah.
So,
I would gift it to her, and then she'll not
like-
read it,
Right,
and
of course.
then you.
But can if I practice this in my own dating life, can she then pick up on it and practice it in her dating life?
Yeah. Do you mind sharing your name?
Alana.
Alana, nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
Alana, my gut is telling me, Mama, prioritize yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Don't give it to your daughter right now. Think about you
Okay.
and what you want from your love life. So many people who I work with. There was a coach online who, this is a great question. There's a coach online who I love and follow and admire. She loved and followed and admired me. And she DM'd me to one of my dating strategies. And she was like, oh, this would be great for my community. And I knew she was single, and I knew she was following me because she was dating. She's like, this would be great for my community. I can, oh my God, I can take this and I can teach them this concept. And I was like, cool. Yeah, let's share it with them. You're asking because you want something, and it feels safer for some reason. And I'm not saying, you can toss it on back if this doesn't resonate. If this does resonate, it does. Okay, cool.
Honestly, since my divorce, I haven't really been in a relationship or even wanted to be in a relationship. So that's why I'm here, to get some ideas on how to be in a relationship. Because, like you said, I have an ex still stuck in my head.
Yeah, for sure. Well, I do think that this book will feel like a giant exhale, hopefully, and a hug. And I want to give you permission that it's okay to prioritize yourself. It can be a lot easier to ask a question for somebody else. And how can I care for them better? Because it can be scary to think about, what do I want? How am I going to do it? But I think that's worthy of exploration and worthy of attention, and you get to want what you want. So yes, give it to your daughter when it comes up, because you're feeling different. But focus on yourself first for a while. Thank you for your question.
Hi.
Hi.
I'm Isa.
Hi, Isa.
You and I both kind of grew up in a similar way, very religious, Southern-ish. I don't know, Florida's adjacent.
Florida's different.
And I guess if you could think back to the younger you that was in that environment, what's one thing that you would say to that version of yourself now, with what you know?
You're going to get out soon. Don't worry, it's going to happen. I really was feeling really stuck. And I went to college in Mississippi. It was such a lateral move. I was in Jackson, Mississippi from Birmingham, Alabama. I couldn't have picked 2 more regressive places to live. But it was tough because I felt like the only one. I didn't share values with many people around me, some, which made those friendships really deep and meaningful. But I would just say, it's okay to feel what you're feeling. Loneliness is a feeling that all humans have, is what I'd say. I felt really lonely. So I'd normalize those feelings and practice self-compassion. I didn't know that term until 6 years ago. It changed my life. And then I'd say, you're figuring it out. You're doing great.
Any other questions?
Welcome, Is there a
Please. Yes, great.
It's like a TikTok in real life.
My name's Jess, and I was part of your book club earlier. I signed up, and I found you on Maria Matchmaker Maria. And if you want me to go on tour with you and sell your books, I will. It's been my Bible all summer. I teach yoga, and so many of the things you're saying that are like so applicable to just life. I use so many themes in my yoga class. I did, you can't say the wrong thing to the right person. That's my favorite phrase from your book. Thank you, more please was a week. We just did bragging last week. These are my yoga students that came with me. But the book is just more than a dating book. I use this in my life and all of the things, and it really does give you those tools to just feel like a more confident human being. But yeah, so I just wanted to thank you for that. And because of that, because of your book and the day after the book club, or very close after the book club, I reached out to somebody and I asked them what's bringing them joy right now. And I said if I like their answer, I'm going to give them my phone number. And we have been together ever since, and it's been going amazingly. And literally, he couldn't check more boxes, and I looked for all the red flags that I could possibly. ask my therapist about the red flags.
You can trust yourself.
And because of this,
Yes.
I can trust myself.
So
and
good.
it's been really cool. But I literally, every week, the reason I found out you were here is because another one of my yoga students saw that you were going to be here, and they're like, this is the book you keep talking about.
Oh my God, thanks,
So
Jess.
it's just been, all my themes all summer long have been inspired by your book. So thank you. It's not just a book to find love. It's like a book to find yourself and have all the confidence and brag and all the things. So
Thank you so much. I really appreciate that.
part 2 you could do though is like, yeah, once you have the boyfriend, then what?
Okay, I'm here now. What?
So-
Great. I'll get on that. But you
More
know.
please, but also now what?
Yeah, no. Thank you so much for
Yeah.
sharing. Love
Yeah.
it. Thank you.
That's a real thank you, more please moment. And I think like being on that road and being in that place, it feels so good. Like once you finally get to that point where you're using these strategies. I remember I was talking to my therapist and I said to her, I was like, but like, when's the other shoe gonna drop? Like, what is coming next? And it's like, there's always this, it's like a safety switch in the back of our heads that is like watching out for like, okay, when's it all gonna flip? When's it gonna be hard times again? But I don't know, you feel more prepared for it when you're saying thank you, more please.
I think this is about like receiving more joyful life stuff, right? Like, and main character energy opens you up to all of it, right? I believe life is 50-50, 50% really hard, 50% amazing. And so it's not all, there are still hard times, but the skills that I teach in this book increase resiliency and decrease stress. And so that allows you to receive so much more good and allows you to move through the hard with a more buoyant ship. So I'm really glad that you resonate, and I'm so grateful to be here, and I'm grateful to Midtown Scholar and to you, Amanda, and thank you, Mark. Thank you so much.
Well, with that, I'm going to wrap that up. It's a great way to end. One more big old round of applause for our wonderful ladies up here. Amazing job. We are going to be doing our raffle drawing really quick.